this back treatment is to work with the ribs and the rib joints. When I say rib joints, I mean that the rib comes into the spine and articulates in two places. One is at the transverse process, and then it also articulates at the body of the vertebrae. It does that on two sides. So, two joints on each side for each vertebrae. 12 ribs, that means that we have 48 joints. And that's a lot of areas that can become stiff, misaligned, blocked. We want to give some movement to the ribs to free up those joints, because the spine, the paravertebral muscles, and these rib joints all work in tandem with each other. And if one is off, then it starts to cause some kind of aberration in one of the others. We can also use the rib for leverage to get movement into one of the vertebrae, particularly the vertebrae that's attached to. And I'll be demonstrating that as well. So we're going to work with the rib cage and give that springing action to the rib joints. And then what we're going to do is go back to areas that had that sensation of not springing or resistance, and we're going to gently work with that rib until we get that to free up. When we come back and we do all three of these elements together, the spine, the paravertebral muscles, and the ribs, we're also going to use the rib to get leverage and movement directed at specific vertebrae. We have a similar format where we do the general pass 2 or 3 times with evaluation, and then we go back to specific areas. So it's going to be the same with the ribs. Now what I tend to do is to start with the rib cage, starting from the lower area and moving up. And that is because it's easier to get access on the lower part. And so to get the whole flow of the technique going, I usually start at the lower part. I just put my hands together and use my thumb and my first finger, my index finger, to catch the shape of the rib cage, and then gently start to rock. Or, more accurately, to move the rib cage in lateral and then release, and to detect that springing action of the joint. Does the body have give and then the resilience to push back, or is it just resistant? Resistance is a sensation of the body saying, no, I don't want to. So this is the general pass. And when we get up to this area of the shoulder blade, there's a couple of ways that we can do this. We can just follow through with a little bit more of a broad contact with the heel of the hand. Or we can make this configuration with our fingers and come to the inside border of the scapula. And get to each rib that way. So I'm catching, in this case, I'm catching each rib between my fingers, similar to how we were catching the spinous process. In the previous technique. Okay. So general pass. Each vertebrae. Each rib. Also continue right through that way over the scapula. However, when you get to these upper ribs, you really have to switch over to this technique to really feel the individual ribs. The rib cage very quickly narrows at that point at around the fourth, third, second, and first ribs. So the rib cage really contours inward. So when you get to this upper part of the scapula, you really have to switch your hands over. So now I'm going to go back to a few spots that said no to the movement. There was one here. Create this finger position and catch the rib where it turns from the side of the body to the back of the body. It makes a sharp angle there. And I find that that is oftentimes a good location to place the hands. And right now I'm working with contact on one individual rib. My other fingers, of course, are there, but they're really not making a strong contact. The strong contact is coming between the thumb and the index finger knuckle. So when a rib is resistant, like with the vertebrae, what I'm doing is rocking sometimes slower, sometimes a smaller range of movement, and I'm testing to see where I can find a range or an angle that the body can allow more easily, and then work with that first to give that area, in this case the rib, the experience again of what it feels like to move in the proper way, which is this springing action. Very important, let the person relax and feel their body. And give that suggestion. Feel your body, feel the sensation of your body. There's so much information coming from that, that over the long term, this is what really starts to create change in the person, also the activation of the person's own deep healing power.